to Everything Right, Wrong, and Almost Right in the movie version of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. In this video series, I will analyze what went right and what went wrong in all 8 of the Harry Potter films. There are going to be spoilers in every one of these videos, so if you're ready for that, let's get started. Scene 7, the trio visits Diagon Alley and stalks Draco Malfoy. The film did a fine job of showcasing the newly devastated Diagon Alley, which symbolizes that the wizarding world is in peril. Weasley's wizard Wheezes makes a glorious contrast and is just as colorful, grand, and obnoxious as it should be. There is a frantic, madcap pacing to this scene, which is wholly entertaining, but we don't get to cover the extensive range of defense against the dark arts products the twins sell. They mention Peruvian instant darkness powder, but they should have taken an additional 10 or 15 seconds to reference decoy detonators. In the very next film, Harry uses a decoy detonator to infiltrate the Ministry of Magic, but the films never introduce what they are. Next, the trio follows Malfoy to Borgin and Burke, and they made the right decision in tightening this all up and eliminating the part where Hermione goes in to investigate. This moment is short but effective. Nocturne Alley is still creepy, and Malfoy is super sus. However, the trio should have been under the invisibility cloak, or there should have been some indication that they had to sneak off. Again, that Harry can just wander around wherever he wants negates the idea that his safety is of concern to any of the adults in the film. So this scene got it almost right. Accuracy, 7 out of 10. Scene 8, the Hogwarts Express. This scene does a great job of elaborating on Harry's suspicions about Malfoy. The exterior shots of the train and the Peruvian instant darkness powder are both spectacular. This is also like the only time for the rest of the series that Harry uses his invisibility cloak. Take note, people. But the biggest standout of all is Draco Malfoy's performance. It is flawless. This is the first time in the series that Draco poses a real threat to Harry's safety, and in this scene he is truly sinister and dangerous. This scene got it right. Accuracy, 10 out of 10. Scene 9, Luna finding Harry on the train. Now, this choice goes over well in the film because it's funny, it's light, it's sweet, it showcases Luna perfectly, and we also get this very artful shot through her kooky specter specs. But here's another opportunity to touch on Harry's security that gets tossed away. In the book, Tonks is the one to find Harry because she's been assigned to protect him and she comes looking for him, as opposed to him just being randomly discovered by a Hogwarts student. They obviously chose Luna here to ramp up the comedy, but a scene with Tonks could have been just as comedic. I mean, she is notoriously funny in the book, but let's be honest. In the films, she has almost no lines and hardly any personality, and as such, her death has minimal impact. Including her here would have gone a long way in changing that. Also, it's a bit of a stretch that Luna's glasses can see through the invisibility cloak, but I'm gonna let that go. Accuracy, 1 out of 10. This scene got it all wrong, but it does earn a bonus point for this moment here.
Names?
Professor Flitwick, you've known me for 5 years.
No exceptions, Potter.
This is just so funny. These are the kind of changes I love to see, where the creative impulses of the production team just draw you deeper into the world. And the walk up to the castle and Filch searching Malfoy and this moment where the gates seal shut all demonstrate at least the increased security around the school, if not Harry himself. So that's all really good storytelling. Scene 10, first day of class. Finally, we've arrived at Hogwarts and it's the first day of school. This moment where McGonagall calls out instructions in the middle of a swarm of students just captures the hubbub and confusion of the first day of classes perfectly. It also emphasizes that as 6th years, Ron and Harry are now the big men on campus. It's also one of the only reminders in the film that Hogwarts is a school. Harry's first potions class is the only classroom scene in the movie. Now right here, McGonagall informs Harry that his grades are sufficient to get him into Newt level potions, and then Harry and Ron set off for the dungeons. The rest of the scene is all comedy, and it's one the filmmakers should be very proud of. First of all, the potions room is beautiful, and the whole scene encapsulates the feeling of Hogwarts. Harry and Ron wrestle for the newer of the 2 used potion books, which is how Harry ends up with the Half-Blood Princess copy. Hermione gets to answer a question, and then we have Shrivel Fig shooting across the classroom left and right. Seamus blows up his potion, which is a thread going all the way back to Sorcerer's Stone, and we also get to watch Hermione's hair slowly frizz out all around her. This scene got it right. Accuracy, 10 out of 10. Scene 11, Dumbledore's lessons with Harry. Next up is Harry's first lesson with Dumbledore. In the film, Dumbledore never asks Harry to attend regular lessons. Instead, they meet up entirely at random.
You must be wondering why I summoned you here tonight.
Additionally, most of the memories Dumbledore shared with Harry are cut out. In the book, in addition to learning about Voldemort's family and his childhood, we also uncover the secret of his Horcruxes, which are objects in which a person has concealed a piece of their soul. We learn how many he intended to make and his motivations for turning each of them into a Horcrux. We also learn about his first job at Borgin and Burke after graduating Hogwarts, and we visit the day he returns to the school to ask Dumbledore to allow him to teach. I understand the impulse to edit the number of memories down for time, but the movie took this entirely too far. The only memories we keep are Dumbledore's memory of Voldemort as a child and Slughorn's memory of teenage Voldemort. Unarguably, the central plot point of Half-Blood Prince is what Harry learns about Voldemort. Even the movie's tagline, available on imdb.com, reads, "As Harry begins his 6th year at Hogwarts, he discovers an old book marked as the property of the Half-Blood Prince and begins to learn more about Lord Voldemort's dark past." The movie certainly accomplishes finding the prince's book and learning more about Voldemort, but the purpose of Dumbledore's lessons with Harry, which are again decidedly not lessons in the movie, is not to just learn more about Voldemort. Let's observe the facts of the story. At the start of year 6, Voldemort is the most powerful dark wizard of all time. He is possessed of such immense, inexplicable, incalculable power that he apparently cannot be killed. His army of followers worship him like a deity, and there is hardly a witch or wizard alive who dares to speak his name aloud. That is some pretty serious clout. And this is the foe which innocent, ordinary, 16-year-old Harry Potter must one day face. Now, I don't know about you, and don't get me wrong, because I'm rooting for Harry and everything, but there seems to be a pretty good chance Harry Potter could lose this battle. Until, that is, Harry's lessons with Dumbledore. Memory after hard-won memory, Dumbledore helps Harry chip away at Voldemort's mystique until every one of his deepest secrets is laid bare. We uncover Voldemort's fears, his weaknesses, and his mistakes until all that remains is savage, deranged, mutilated old Tom Riddle. And despite what he told Frank Bryce in Goblet of Fire, Voldemort is, verifiably, nothing more than a man. He was born to a woman just like every other man, and he can be killed just like every other man. It's reasonable that they couldn't include every single memory, and I posit that all of the details the movie is currently missing could very well have been incorporated with the addition of only 2 of those memories. So hear me out. In the film, there is no explanation for why Voldemort makes a Horcrux out of the locket, and it's never revealed that it once belonged to his ancestor, Salazar Slytherin. We also never learn that he sought to make Horcruxes out of objects belonging to each of the 4 Hogwarts founders. In the book, Dumbledore shows Harry a memory of Burke, one of the owners of the shop Borgin and Burke. In this memory, Burke brags about the locket sold to him by Voldemort's mother. She was heavily pregnant at the time, penniless, heartbroken, and so sick that she died barely an hour after giving birth. This memory was the perfect, concise little catalyst to explain the locket's history as well as Voldemort's motivations for turning it into a Horcrux. Understanding his motivations in the end turns out to be just as critical to Harry's ability to defeat him as finding the Horcruxes. And second is Dumbledore's very own memory, the scene where Voldemort returns to Hogwarts to ask Dumbledore for a job. This had the potential to be one of the best scenes in the entire franchise. It's a sit-down, essentially, between the 2 most powerful wizards of all time. This is Godfather-level mob boss drama we're talking about. There is so much tension in this scene to work with. They spend the whole conversation talking very calmly and using very polite words, but it is undeniably a battle for dominance, and in it, all of Voldemort's insecurities are laid bare. This could have given us a necessary glimpse of Voldemort's arrogance and vanity, of his recklessness and desperation to make himself immortal, all factors which cause him to split his soul again and again. The whole point of this book is to help us understand that yes, Voldemort is dangerous, but he was also once just a kid whose mom died and left him in this orphanage and made him afraid of death.
I'm just a kid and life is a nightmare.
And part of the reason he's a psychopath is that his family are all inbred, pureblood maniacs, and His mom only conceived him by tricking his father with a love potion, and this cursed him with an inability to love. We don't touch on any of this in the movie, but I am convinced that these two scenes alone would have communicated all of it. This particular scene is also supposed to show Voldemort in the midst of his transition from handsome Tom Riddle to the snake-like and mutilated figure we see throughout the films. This would have been really cool to represent because we never explain in the movies why Voldemort looks the way he does. Like, he's so ugly and weird looking, but nobody ever talks about that. But anyway, had they included this scene between Voldemort and Dumbledore, they could also have squeezed in a shot of Voldemort angrily stalking through the castle when he's turned down for the job. I'm making this up, but this is when he hides the diadem Horcrux in the Room of Requirement, and that would have been really good foreshadowing. And finally, after watching this memory, Dumbledore could have mentioned to Harry that they haven't been able to keep a DA teacher ever since, which explains to moviegoers why there's a new teacher every year. I say all of this to say that these two scenes would have completely transformed this movie in, I estimate, about 8 movie minutes. When it comes to the two memories we do see in the movie, there is very little to critique. The memory of 11-year-old Tom Riddle at the orphanage was beautifully crafted, and it was brilliant, if you caught it, to include this brief shot of the cave depicted in a postcard on Tom's wall. The pacing of the scene and young Riddle's performance were both exceptional. However, completely absent is this horrified reaction Tom displays in the book when Dumbledore sets his wardrobe on fire. When this happens, Riddle thinks that, quote, all of his worldly possessions have just been destroyed, and at this, Riddle stands and yells at Dumbledore. But when he sees the fire didn't leave any damage, he gets this hungry look in his eye for more magic that we do see on his face in the film. To me, this represents another moment where strong emotions are erased, and this was our only opportunity in any of the films to empathize with our villain. It would have taken about 5 additional seconds to leave the scene the way it was, elevating it from great to perfect. Very well done also were the 2 versions of the memory in which teenage Tom Riddle asks Slughorn about Horcruxes, especially the similarity in appearance between the actors playing young Tom. Overall, Dumbledore's meetings with Harry got it wrong, but when it comes to accuracy, they do earn 3 out of 10, 1 for each memory. Scene 12, the Quidditch Tryouts. Though there is no mention of Harry being appointed Gryffindor Quidditch captain, a glaring omission, the Quidditch tryouts are so fun to watch and bring energy and just joy to the movie. The rivalry between McLaggen and Ron is hilarious. Then we have Ron's haphazard quaffle saves and the buoyant presence of the onlooking crowd. This is all fabulous. I also love that Ginny gets to shout and is generally a badass, which she does a lot more of in the books.
Shut it!
This scene got it right. Accuracy, 10 out of 10. Scene 13, the 3 broomsticks, and Katie Bell is cursed. This scene was an efficient device for setting up several plot points at once. It introduces Slughorn's parties, illustrates Slughorn's propensity to overlook Ron, demonstrates Ron's protective urges toward Ginny, who is across the bar making out with Dean Thomas, and most importantly, shows us Harry's attempts to ingratiate himself to Slughorn. It tells us Harry is thinking like an Auror, applying every ounce of his cunning to getting what he needs. Directly after this, the trio marches off arm in arm, only to witness Gryffindor chaser Katie Bell get cursed by a necklace. The visual depiction of this felt even more chilling than it did in the book, so hats entirely off there. But then, an issue appears in this scene, and that is everyone's reactions to it. The attack on Katie was a traumatic event for all who witnessed it, but in the movie, everybody just kind of rolls on like it's just another day at Hogwarts. Hagrid is cool and collected, where in the book he's stunned and panicked. Leanne, Katie's friend, screams once, but is otherwise perfectly calm, even though in the book she is sobbing so hysterically she has to be taken to the hospital wing. Now, I'm calling this out because when what happens to the characters in the movie doesn't cause a visible impact, it doesn't allow for the audience to be impacted. And emotional outbursts like grief or terror or rage are all lovingly crafted in this book, but in the film, they are replaced by awkward, prolonged eye contact. I respect that Britons are renowned for being emotionally reserved, but the author is British too, and she wouldn't have written her characters the way she did if she did not think them capable of expressing deep feeling. This scene got it almost right. Accuracy, 5 out of 10. Scene 14, the snowy Quidditch match. Next up, the first Quidditch match of the season. Harry tricks Ron into thinking he spiked his pumpkin juice with Lucky Potion, which allows him to give a spectacular performance. The film created another moment here to showcase Luna Lovegood, all the more reason to have included Tonks on the Hogwarts Express. But the Quidditch match itself was exhilarating. It is exciting, well-paced, and we get to see Ron shine for the first time in forever. There's also a cameo of the Batil twins in the stands, and a shot of a girl who looks like she could have been the original Lavender Brown. When we cut back to the Gryffindor common room, new Lavender and Ron make out in front of everyone, and this was just perfect. All the happy, teenage, raucous Gryffindor energy is really fun, and altogether, this scene just makes you feel at home at Hogwarts. They got it absolutely right. Accuracy, 10 out of 10. Scene 15, we're going to cover all of Lavender and Ron's relationship here. Though I find it repugnant that the makers of this film replaced Lavender with a white actress the minute she became a major love interest, Kathleen Cawley nailed this part. She's a lovesick, clingy, adorable nightmare. The dynamic between her and Ron is as hilarious as it is pivotal, and the actors themselves have really good chemistry. Also, the love triangle between Lavender, Ron, and Hermione was crystal clear and perfectly executed. Emma Watson gave a truly beautiful performance, both crying her heart out over Ron and capturing all the angst of unrequited love. We've all been there, Hermione. I feel your pain, girl. The film got this right. Accuracy, 10 out of 10. Scene 16, Slughorn's Christmas Party. This scene could not possibly have been any better. Every moment just feels like an improvement on the last. Just before the party is a scene with Hermione and Harry in the library where she informs him that a girl called Romilda Vane is trying to slip him a love potion. When Harry sees this girl, it's clear he's tempted to allow it. Romilda is described as aggressive and unappealing in the book, but it was a really funny choice to make her attractive in the movie. And am I the only one who just loves watching Hermione smack the boys around? Instead of Romilda, Harry takes Luna to the party, which is festive and bustling. Hermione looks great in her peachy little cocktail dress, and she's even showing a little décolletage. Go off, Hermione. Neville is hilariously pathetic here as a waiter. Slughorn finally gets a picture with Harry, and it almost all descends into farce as Hermione runs away from McLagan's attempts to make out with her. There is just stroke after stroke of comedic genius all over this scene. Then, McLagan vomits Dragon Balls all over Snape's shoes, and finally, there's this moment here.
Travelling where?
Oh, Alan Rickman, you are so missed. The scene takes a serious turn when Draco Malfoy gets dragged in by Filch and admits that he was attempting to gatecrash. Snape takes up for him and offers to see Draco out, but Harry follows and overhears their very suspicious conversation. Tom Felton and Alan Rickman are both going for Oscars, or maybe BAFTAs, in this scene. It is so freaking well performed. Snape tries to wheedle the truth out of Draco, but Draco brushes him aside. He is cracking under the pressure, but he also doesn't know if he can truly trust Snape. But their conversation confirms Harry's suspicions, and as soon as he gets to the Weasleys for Christmas, he spills all this tea with the Order of the Phoenix. This scene got it right. Accuracy, easy 10 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out part 3.